welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Oops, don't do that. Ow, sorry. Scratches. I am your host for tonight, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nurse Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And those sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Indeed. And you can find this here program on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And apparently Sky wants to just do its own thing because it can go its own way when it wants to. But that's fine because we're going to work with this somehow, some way. But you can also find this here program on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, or some would say Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And now my speakers won. It's been a whole thing tonight, folks. I just want you just a little behind the scenes, like just all kind of
Gremlins. The Gremlins are out tonight.
Yeah, because now my speakers want to act up, and that's not good.
It's one of those nights, ladies and gentlemen.
It
We've
very
had them
much is.
before, not so much on this new platform that we've been using since pre-pandemic, really. But there was a time when we were on Google Hangouts that we were running into gremlins all the time.
This is true, but you know what? We're going to soldier through them as we tend to do. And say that I think we're just going to get into the new, and I mean not the news. We're not there yet. We're going to get into the comic books of the week, starting off with Fantastic Four number 25.
Absolutely, and I will start this conversation off by saying that this is definitely a potential click of the week for myself.
Same.
This issue was great. It is essentially something that I described, I think, on the show. I want to say I mentioned this on the show. That Slott came out in an interview recently. I want to say it was on Marvel's Pull List, the weekly Marvel Comics podcast. But I believe he said that 25 is essentially a soft reboot and a great place to jump onto the story, because you don't necessarily need to have a ton of information acquired beforehand to really appreciate the story. But it does help because it lays a lot of context for some of the relationships that we have in the story right now. There's a lot of stuff that Slott follows up on in this issue. But firstly, I wanted to mention that R.B. Silva's art absolutely sings in the primary story in this issue, and the colors by Jesus Arbertov really accentuate the art and spectacle of a story. As I said, that's a soft reboot of the series, sending it in a new direction but still incorporating everything that Slott has established in the prior 24 issues. 2 new threats are established, and believe it or not, we even see a little bit of the Fantastics who are actually dealt with.
Right, and part of me was still thinking, oh wait, this is Great Lakes Avengers. No, wait, it's not them.
Exactly. It's like they brought them back to deal with that situation. But there's a lot of stuff happening in this issue, believe it or not, because it deals with several intersecting storylines. We have Ben and Alicia and the 2 new children of the Fantastic Four family, the Kree and Skrull respectively. we deal with that aspect. We also deal with something that I know Roddykat mentions at the beginning of his notes, and that being Sue Storm's continued utilization by maybe not Shield, but definitely the U.S. government, because I think that's what's mentioned in the issue.
Basically. And yeah, it wasn't. Well, I only said that part because I knew, because even in her miniseries, she was working with the government and not Shield, because Shield by that time that happened was no longer in existence.
Right.
But it just kind of made me wonder. It was like, wait,
present
what's
day story? Right, the present day story, not the flashback story.
right?
Gotcha.
But it just had me wondering. It's like, wait, what's the status of Shield at this point? Is it still non-existent? And like, because yeah, like you said, Fury shows up and gives Sue a mission, which starts this whole ball off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what brought that out, which takes her back into the crosshairs of well, not necessarily crosshairs, but basically it takes her into the Latvian embassy, and under the gaze of Doom, who was coincidentally putting together or putting the finishing touches on the security system when the aliens that were come looking for whatever little black box they were looking for come barreling through. But of course, Doom being Doom knew she was there, so that was that was a whole nother side of thing. And then which starts kind of their involvement with each other and the rest of the story. Which just like you, I kind of enjoyed the main story much less. Well, the backup stories too, or the backup story too, I guess I should say, or
right.
Yeah.
Well, there's one backup story. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But
as I mentioned earlier, and I figure you'd want to follow up on this, there's, as I said, there's two new threats that are introduced in this story. The first one being someone who was introduced to us right at the beginning. It is the helmsman, and whoever it is that the helmsman is working with there. Cormorant, is like a bird. I had to look that up because I was like, new vocabulary word for the day.
Yeah, it seems like it's a new species we may or may not have come across before now. Like, sometimes Slot will as we have found out in the Silver Surfer book, he will make up some new races. So,
right.
And it is quite possible that this is one of them now, but we don't know. Or at least I hadn't done the legwork to find out whether that's the case or not. But regardless, like you said, there is a new enemy in these two folks. Then they're looking for whatever they're looking for.
Right. And that leads us to the second threat that I mentioned, which is, such a great way of, kind of putting in, of Slott. And shout out to Dan Slott, who wrote this really solid kind of restart of the Fantastic Four. Shout out to him for, I don't know if he directed R.B. Silva to draw this. Probably not, but he might have laid a hint. There's definitely some Kirby-esque technology being built by Reed and Valeria Richards.
Yeah, mostly Valeria, but yeah.
What's that?
I said pretty much mostly Valeria.
Right.
Given what happens.
Ultimately, we have this very Kirby-esque technology that's being built, and there's a question about how to power it, and it's and of course we have this particular story thread coming full circle with something else that pops up, which is what the helmsman and the cormorant are looking for, and lo and behold, we have another threat that the FF and coincidentally Dr. Doom and what's her face,
Victorious.
Yes, Victorious. I was about to say I don't remember her name, but I always remember thinking of Victorious as opposed to Notorious.
Mm-hmm.
That they have to deal with later on in the issue, and that creates, as I said, another threat that Doom automatically knows, what it is and gives it a name.
Mm-hmm. So as Reed said in the issue, basically Valeria solved the problem by creating another one.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say in my notes, we now at this point have that the Krakoans are not the only ones who has a gate that goes anywhere. The difference is apparently this gate that is popped up in this issue can very much go anywhere and don't need, well, as far as we know, doesn't need um, any other like seeds to be planted elsewhere to make them. We don't know that part yet because obviously it just happened, but they already said it was like, yeah, we can pretty much go pretty much anywhere. So that's
Right,
going
or
to
any time.
exactly.
And I picked up on that as well. They talked about being able to go anywhere and any time.
Hmm.
And as Roddykat mentioned, we don't know if there has to be a concurring doorway that exists or has to be built on the other side for them to go through. It doesn't look like it, but we don't know that yet.
Exactly, doesn't. So,
Right.
but we also find in the course of this issue that the Fantastic Four have reclaimed the Baxter Building, or what remains of the Baxter Building at this point, because everything that happened to put this gate pretty much happened there. Which I found it kind of funny. It was like, because when the aliens was like, so basically what happened, just to give a little background, sorry, the aliens come down look for a thing. They went to Doctor Doom. He had one of these other black boxes, which we don't know what's in it because he blew it up.
I'd say this is me attempting not to spoil everything, but okay, let me ring the bell.
Yeah, I know, but just, I mean, it is still worth. Well, it's still worth a good read, because I'm not going to give everything, but just this is pretty much the final points. So they go to Doom. This is and it also says why Doom is involved. So Doom has this thing, whatever it was, because he blew it up. And then it says that, well, your husband's probably got something to do. And then of course there's this like, we don't have any secrets, and they clearly did, but that's a whole other thing. So Sue calls Reed, and they talk, and it was like, oh, I'll assemble the team, because apparently he does have one of these boxes, which sets up the rest of the thing, which I won't necessarily go into. But like I said, because of all of that, the aliens kind of come and go, which brings up the funny part to me was like, well, clearly they were looking for something and they didn't find it, but they just so happened to be the catalyst to get us to where we've already established now, with this whole other gate coming open on the Baxter Building property, and for Reed and the company to basically take it back over again, since the Fantastics, if people did not know, were the ones who bought that building, but the building is no longer there, so they had nowhere to stay. Which also led to that one line from between them. Like Reed was like, "Yeah, I'm reclaiming the building," and then was like, "Well, the building destroyed, and there's another threat coming." And it's like, "Nah, that's a not great way to sell things, Richards." So.
Yeah, pretty much. We
that.
also have, just to quickly get through the rest of the story, we also have a development that that happens to Franklin Richards, which
I was gonna get to that.
have been which Slott has been teasing for a little while, but I didn't expect it to happen this quickly, and I found it somewhat interesting. But it's definitely going to take Franklin in a very different direction than what we've seen in the last several issues of this series, as well as the X-Men Fantastic Four limited series.
Yes.
So that's definitely in the interest of this character, and kind of what Roddykat referred to in an off camera discussion about, we were talking about Hulk Future Imperfect stuff and how that relates to what's going on today with Immortal Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
There are,
yeah,
obviously these stories are told in very different timelines. Those stories were told in very different timelines, and this story is told, when I say different timelines, I mean in very different real-time times. For example, Future Imperfect having been written 30 plus years ago, now we have the Maestro going back, fortunately with the same writer. But in this case, we have known that Franklin Richards, depending on the reality that that we've seen written, is oftentimes the last living person together with Galactus at the
Right.
end of all time in reality. So seeing this happen to him now, it's just a matter of seeing where the story goes. So it's interesting to see this development and how this relates to him and his newfound uh, affinity for going to Krakoa.
Right.
Put it that way.
So on that which yeah, well, and there was all probably at least one, yeah, like you said, depending on who wrote and what timeline. There's definitely those two people at the end of the world, and a couple other folks, like as we have established, like Thor and or a version of Hulk. The
Right.
Mark Rose
End of the
also
universe. I
at the
mean,
end of the
you know?
universe,
Yeah.
yeah, is usually around. But that being said, I honestly thought so, and we can probably move on after this. But I honestly thought that the the reason for the gate being there was going to be the reason that Franklin. I thought there was going to be that was going to be something that was going to involve Franklin. Let's put it that way. Because I thought the two of those were going to meet up, and then it was like, oh, his powers got renewed now, and all of a sudden, and so so now he's like ultra mega a mutant. Like, because we've seen Franklin in various states of powerful before, like especially when he was a kid. And I think at one point even lost his power. Supposedly had lost his power for a minute or two, but always,
Okay.
but tends to get it back. So I don't suspect that this is going to be any different. It just
Yeah,
didn't happen
so
with.
either.
Yeah, it just didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen in this issue, which I'm kind of glad it didn't, because then that would have been a little predictable, and then Slot's not always a predictable person, so that kind of goes in his favor. That being
Right.
said,
I was about to say you touched on the backup story.
yeah, I was about to. That's what I'm getting to right now. So yeah, the backup has to do with you. Basically, and this is not the well, this is going to be another issue this week. There's going to be another issue this week that deals with some sort of an aftermath from. Well, never mind. Don't forget what I'm saying. That's a totally different thing. But regardless, this has to do with Uatu and the unseen, the
OG
former,
Nick Fury.
exactly. And apparently, Uatu has come to take his spot back, basically. And now that he's pretty much gotten caught up on things, and he has his own herald. And you can put two and two together as to who that is to be. But it's worth a read because it's kind of interesting, because you can see like, hey, everything that's happened since Uatu's been gone kind of gets mentioned.
Right.
But
It's not a Kelly Clarkson song. It's not just a Kelly Clarkson song.
exactly. And
you know,
yeah. And last but not least, though, apparently the letters page has a new name, and if that last image that after the letters page is any indication, or at least the text underneath that image is any indication, like we got some stuff coming up, and I'm just going to say, because there was some mention of an old flame coming back, and I'm thinking, wait, is Frankie Ray coming back?
I got a kick out of that too.
So I was like, okay, I'm like, all right, cool. But it could also be the original Human Torch, but since he's still around, but I'm thinking it's Frankie Ray, and I'm hoping that's the case.
I'm not 100% sure what happened to her.
She's
Well,
still
or
around.
She is.
Yeah, she's still around. She's, as far as we know, may not be powered, but she's still around. So that has been the question, because I know we have seen her as little as probably about a good 4, 5, 6 like years ago in like Fearless Defenders or something like that. So yeah, she has shown up, just not lately.
Fearless Defenders. Wow.
Yeah, that was a while ago. But we don't know what's the deal. So maybe that's the case. We don't know. It could be totally something different, but I'm hoping that's what it is. And that is Fantastic Four number 25. It was a quite enjoyable read if you hadn't picked it up. Its legacy number is 670, but it was, because it's the 25th issue of this volume, it was a bigger size issue.
Right. And feel free to jump on. It's definitely worth jumping on, and it's an easy place to jump on because, as we have stressed in our discussion of the book, it's going in a new direction.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need necessarily a ton of information to jump on in this issue.
Yeah, I also like that little part with Ben, Alicia, and the kids as they were supposedly they were going to be setting them up for school, and then it was like, never mind.
Yeah,
That part was pretty cool. Like this was just an enjoyable issue all the way around. That being said, we can go on to another book. I guess let's hit that Amazing Spider-Man.
All right.
So Amazing Spider-Man, if I can spell, number 50.lr. So this is one of these books.
Right.
And in this book, just pretty much in a nutshell, is like all of the stuff that happened before issue 50 last week gets bared out in this issue. So in issue 50, we see Spider-Man kind of going along to get Doctor Strange's help, but we see him being chased by some folks we didn't find out until later in the issue who that was after the events of issue 49. But this is pretty much the bridge between 49 and 50 in that we see, what happens between 49 and 50 proper and before he gets to Doctor Strange. And also a couple of other things comes out because we see Norman Osborn and Dr. Kafka talking about things on their end as far as things with him and the revelation of Kindred, who we now know who it is. And if you haven't read, I won't spoil it for you, but nevertheless, it is someone close to Harry Osborn. Well, at this point, it's no surprise, but it was kind of sort of to me. So we get a little bit more on that, and and Osborn's kind of going through his pity party and this kind of things and stuff while he's talking to Kafka, and they get to a situation where there's like, well, we can get somebody to try to help you on that situation. And we're left to think before the reveal on the last page, or it might be something totally different. I'm thinking that Osborn and Kafka was talking about someone else coming in to help with mediation, but we get to see the return of a character, a beloved character who has been in their own book. That now that I think about it, we haven't seen that book in a minute. From their the return of a character from their own book into the pages of Spider-Man.
Right. I'll ring the spoiler bell and talk about this because it does have something to do with books that were previously solicited.
Okay.
Right. So this book, as Roddykat mentioned, picks up on some of the things that happen in between, and it's kind of like an interstitial book where it happens in between certain things in previous issues and current issues. I think it's pretty integral to the Last Remain story.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually focuses on Norman Osborn with his sins newly eaten, and him talking to Dr. Kafka. We get the return of this character, and I rang the spoiler bell, so you've been previously warned. We get the return of Mary Jane Watson back to the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, and the reason why I related this back to previously solicited issues is that, as we know, MJ was off in her own little series, or what became a mini series. And it was unfortunately canceled pretty much as a result of the pandemic, because I think they were previously solicited issues and they just haven't released. I think they had one and a half or two possibly in the can, and they just haven't released them yet.
Well, see, I will go further than that because I remember how this went. It was originally a mini series, and then they were like, no, well, and then like halfway through they were like, let's make this into an ongoing, which is where we thought we were, and then like what Agent 70 said is pretty much seems to be pretty much the case, because we haven't seen any issues since
Right.
It's been a few
We have
months.
seen solicitations of these books, which means that they definitely had covers done, if not some or all interiors.
Right.
So we don't know, we don't know if those books will ever see the light of day, if that story is ever going to be followed up on. But at the end of the day, we have MJ back in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. The last thing I would say on this book is that I think the readership would have understood if these interlude issues would have been just put into the main series numbering
Pretty
and just
much.
had to go on and on. It's essentially like they're double shipping Amazing Spider-Man anyway. So why not just put it into the regular numbering and integrate it into the storyline proper,
Right.
so we don't have to do gymnastics and try to figure out where this all fits in.
Right. And they've come out and said that you don't necessarily have to which, by the way, .lr means last rights, which last rights is the arc we're in right now. So I mean, this is nothing new because they've done this stuff before. But they said that these point issues are not integral to the story, but to get a little bit more out of it, which we've come to find out already in past dealings. This one pretty much, like Agent 70 was kind of alluding to, this one seems kind of integral. Because
right. I think so. This is more integral than some of the other previous point whatever stories
right.
have come out. So I don't understand why they couldn't just double ship and make this issue 51.
To which we've said this before with probably 48 or 49. So I was like, or whatever was in between.
Oh
there.
No, the Osborn Rising,
right.
The Sins Rising. Yeah. They should have just made that a regular issue.
Exactly. So it doesn't make any sense. And as I kind of curmudgeonly said around that time, like, this is pretty much a cash grab in a sense. Not necessarily saying that it is, but it kind of is, feels like. Because I'm sitting here like we've just been saying, like, there's no reason why these couldn't have been just in the issues. This couldn't be just the issues.
It's just weird because it's a cash grab in one sense, but in another, it's not like the classic cash grab.
Right.
It's not a classically minded cash grab where it's just like, hey, we're gonna spin this off like King in Black, like into a million other books to try to tie it into something that people seem to like. No, this is just this should have been just a regular issue. But
right.
In any event, we'll move on to our next book, if that's all we have on this.
That's pretty much that. Let's see what we got. Go ahead, pick a book.
I was about to say, let's talk Guardians, and then we can jump into the
right.
X stuff.
Bet. Guardians. Which, speaking of books that doesn't seem like, well, speaking of books that kind of stream off something that's been going on, that has already gone and left us, this is an this is an Empire aftermath book, because it takes place pretty much after Empire. With there is a new political structure in the galaxy, and so because of that, there's politics that has to happen. So here we find the Guardians, and also there's a quote unquote end credit scenes that kind of pretty much starts off before the events of this book, right before the events, or right at the beginning of the end of this book. But that's on a whole nother thing that has nothing to do with anything. But they're on their way to some political conference, and apparently Novar is the one that is a part of this thing, but we don't get to know. Well, we kind of get to know that, and he's dressed as Adam Ant, which pretty much had me saying, does anyone even know who Adam Ant is, or do the kids know who Adam Ant is at this point? Which they do.
It forces you to look it up, because that's what I did.
Oh, you didn't know who Adam? Well, so they mentioned.
I didn't know who Adam Ant was.
Well, okay, so some of us are slightly older vintage than others of us, but they do mention in the book who he is, and I was like, okay, Ewing, that was pretty cool, but like, the kids don't know who it is. Regardless, Adam Ant is a rocker from the '80s, a punk rocker specifically. This song called "Stand to Deliver."
Yeah, I was about to say, there's a definite look.
Yes.
That Novar is referencing, and that's why Adam Ant comes up.
Exactly, and a couple of times during the course of this issue as a running gag, but even people who you would think would not even know about Adam Ant apparently knows about him in the universe. So there you go. Anyway, so the Guardians are talking with Sans rocket, on the way to this conference, and then they finally get to this conference, and you have various folks from other races, in attendance here. But we also see that Richard Rider Nova is here. I'm sure Agent 70 is glad to see that. As the delegate from Earth, and they explain why Carol Danvers, who would normally be the ambassador from Earth, is not, because she's half Kree, and there
I was
would
about to
be
say it's a very common sense reason.
right. Yeah, it's like she's half Kree, and therefore there might be some bias. So it makes some sense why she's
And especially,
with
I was about
what's
to say, and
happened.
especially
Yeah.
given her role in Empire.
Exactly, which they mention. So, so that's why Richard Rider's there, and he's representing Earth. The conference goes fine until there's a murder or two.
Of course.
So now the funny part about this, we don't see anything of the Galaxy, the Guardians, with the exception of the fact, until we see them at the beginning of the book because they're talking, and there's that little bit at the very beginning of the book with Phyla and Moondragon because of the events of last issue, because Phyla's upset with Moondragon for doing something, basically merging her essence with the Dragon of the Moon, and she's kind of upset about that. They'll probably pick that back up at some point. And then, of course, Rocket is not there because he was, quote unquote, collecting his thoughts. But what we found out later, we found out what the deal was.
Stupid Fortnite.
I was going to wait until get to there to ruin it, but yes, there you go. So so that whole Fortnite Marvel thing kind of comes into play at the end of the issue, because there's another, quote unquote, end credit scene where Rocket and Groot gets taken by the Bifrost. And get zapped back at the same time, and this is also where Rocket mentions to Groot, was like, yeah, just tell him I'm collecting my thoughts. Which at the end of the issue proper, we see the Guardians come back into play, where Rocket's playing Columbo. It looks like, basically because of the murders that happened, and he's not necessarily. I don't know if he's necessarily changing his name, but they give him a another designation. At this point, instead of Rocket Raccoon, he's still Rocket, but he has given himself an official capacity.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, but this was also an enjoyable issue.
It's definitely a callback to. Oh, I'm sorry. You were saying?
Yeah, no, I was. Go for it. Go for it. What are you going to say?
I was just gonna say this was that was kind of a callback to his origin.
Right.
The new supposed code name, or at least this new alias that he's going by. I was just going to mention that, because it's a direct follow-up to Empire and the events thereof. The story involves space politics, so it's a lot like the UN in space. So there is an echo of Legion of Superheroes in this. And as Roddykat mentioned, of course there's a murder. And as Roddykat mentioned, I wanted to give a shout out to Al Ewing for making use of Richard Rider and reminding us that he was a big focus of the Annihilation events. Yes. I really like the callback. Yeah. I really like the fact that, someone from the Badoon of all places.
Yeah, the Badoon ambassador was the one who brought it up.
So that was, I kind of got a kick out of that. I was like, yeah, of course. That's why, it's nice to see Ewing putting Nova back into a little bit of focus in this Guardians book.
Or in other words, putting some respect on his name.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's another way to put it. It's another way to put it. All right. So I really enjoyed this. This is another candidate for Click of the Week for me. This was an awesome, awesome read.
Right. It seemed kind of weird, but we've known, Ewing to kind of go off someplace but kind of come back at times and things. It's like, okay, where is this going? Because the majority of this book had nothing to do with the Guardians proper until the end of the book. So I was like, okay, here we go. Which, by the way, one last thing. There is a little bit about there is a little mention in there about Novar and Hercules' relationship, but it's kind of just briefly touched on. And since Novar is the focus, kind of sort of was the focus of, you can kind of see how that plays into the rest of the issue without giving anything away.
Right. It's forgive me for not always remembering exactly what is being published right now because of living in the middle of a pandemic. We don't necessarily know if some things are canceled or not.
Right.
But I believe this is not counting Thor, because Thor is kind of like borderline. This is really the only space book that Marvel is publishing on a monthly basis right now.
Strictly space, that's probably correct. Because, I mean, the Fantastic Four seemed like it's probably going to go that way in the next month or two. And we know of another book that's going to go there in the next month. But, yeah, strictly space, yeah, this is...
Right.
Yeah, this
because
is probably
in
the
the
only one.
sense that in the sense that like there have been times when Silver Surfer was the only space book that Marvel
Right.
put out. It makes sense that they would be following up on a lot of this galactic or intergalactic politics stuff in the Guardians book. So
Right.
in a sense, we are always going to see some of this stuff happening in the one space book they're putting out, if there are kind of like wide ranging effects or ramifications coming from something that happened either on Earth or around Earth, because like Empire, and things that are happening in space are going to be explored in that one space book. So this issue is kind of like, all right, so, and they had already pre-planned this to say that this is what's happening in the wake of the Kree and Skrull War ending and the empires becoming united, and King Doric, the whatever, the eighth, I think he calls himself.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Teddy
Coming to power. So this is where we are now, and this is going to be the new norm for space politics going forward. So it makes sense that we would see an issue mostly dedicated to that in the pages of Guardians.
Right, and it was Guardians, the one that kind of made, outside of Empire proper, kind of, or at least the end of Empire anyway, kind of made the whole thing a big deal. Because you remember the other issue, was it the annual, or was it last issue or two, where it was like, where they actually caught up with what happened with Empire and was like, yo, this is a big deal, like, what are we going to do? And
yeah, it's the end of last issue, because they weren't involved at all in Empire. They were just on the other side of the galaxy.
So
they were literally catching up on it on the web.
Exactly. Basically, yeah, on the universal web. So
exactly.
So it makes sense that they would carry on with it. Like Age of 70 being the only space book that's pretty much going around right now, that it would the stuff would come up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, and I think I want to say, I don't know if this is the case or not, but we might also be getting shades of something else that happened at the end in the Empire, or that might have been just a side note that that Al Ewing just kind of messed around with. Because you remember when they were talking, and what was it, Captain Valor? Because there was that whole thing. It was like, yeah, as long as Hulkling's in power, we're striving for, which he could barely get the word out, peace. But as long as he's alive, which was worded in a specific way, then that's what it's going to be. And somebody called him on it. It was like, well, that's a strange way to say it. What happened if he didn't alive? And then Valor just kind of came out and was like, said a thing. And even Super Skrull was like, there was a better way to word that. Like, even I know there was a better way to word that. So I thought that was a funny little bit right there, but also could be something for foreshadowing what we saw at the end of Empire. Possibly, probably not, but it's there. So that being the case, we can move on. You got one more book you want to put out, or we're gonna go wrap it? You want to do the X stuff, or?
Yeah, we could do the X stuff, and then we'll go rapid fire.
Okay, so Excalibur number 13, real quick. You can go ahead and start off while I type this up.
Sure. So in Excalibur number 13, this is chapter 9 of 10 of Swords. 9 of 22, people. And in this story, we have the Braddock twins and the elder Braddock child all meeting up at the Starlight Citadel to deal with Saturnine, which we know is the correct pronunciation now. And I'll tell you that um, the first thing that hit me when I read this book was the fact that the Sword of Might, the literal Sword of Might, which has been around Marvel lore for ages upon ages, ever since they, or at least in Marvel UK, ever since they introduced Captain Britain. And they drop a little bit of a nugget here in the information page, in the data page, saying that the place of origin of the Sword of Might is unknown. However, it's presumed to be from Galador. I'm like, really?
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Galador? Yeah, if you check out the data page of the Sword of Might, it's right after the twins, right after the Braddock kids all land in at the Starlight Citadel, and they meet
Sure.
up with Saturnine. So it's that first data page, and you'll see Sword of Might. But
yeah, I remember the page. I didn't remember reading that part of it. Yeah.
right. So yeah, I just tweeted at Tinny Howard and Jerry Duggan and Agent M of Marvel saying, "Hey man, you guys are killing me with all the Galador references. You know, I wish they could do something more with the Space Knight property. You know,
But they won't.
they can't. But
Well, there's that. They can do something with Space Knights. They just can't do it with the one
with
particular Space
specific,
Knight.
exactly, with a specific Space Knight. But in any event, in broad strokes, and I know Roddykat will probably dig into more of the detail.
Not really.
The Braddock the Braddock twins firmly reestablished their bond, as well as their own directions in the book, and we find out what the Starlight Sword is, which was prophesied, as well as Brian Braddock's new costumed identity and title.
Yep.
And that's essentially where we find ourselves here, and where we find out what places both Betsy and Brian take in the Ten of Swords Tournament of Champions.
Which I realized was prophesied, but at the same time, I didn't expect Brian to be a part of it.
Same.
So that part was like, okay, because I was like, all right, when that came up, I was like, all right, that's all right, sure. But yeah, so like I will add and say that one, Jamie doesn't, even though Jamie's the oldest, he definitely doesn't act like it. And two, that the things we knew about the mantle of Captain Britain and the totems of the mantle have been dealt with, put it this way, and pretty much the main one comes into play with this one. I'll say that. Also, I do remember. So there was a person that held the Sword of Might back in the Avengers. That was not neither one of these two. I don't know if you remember that particular, and I don't remember what happened to that person or how the Sword of Might ended up being back where it is now, or where it was now. So, and I'm probably going to look that up, but it's probably a non-issue at this point.
So, I want to say it was an early Excalibur, or right before that stuff, when they established that Betsy was going to take over as Captain Britain.
Maybe, but also it might also go back to the killing off of the Captain Britain's Corps too. It could have happened then, but or at least the part where the former user of the Sword of Might is now no longer around. Maybe, I'm not sure, but like I said, I'll probably look that up some other time.
Yep.
Anyway, so that being the case, we can move on to X-Men number 13. Which, as we were talking before the show, it's pretty much centered around Apocalypse, who honestly I thought was dead. Because you remember in whatever issue that was, there was like, well, we won't be able to, because of everything that's going on in Overworld and or Otherworld, and him coming back to Krakoa pretty gravely injured. Like they were having issues with the protocol at the time, and I believe that was Marauders, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. Regardless, they were having issues with the temporary issue with the resurrection protocol, and it was like, well, it's going to be a while for us to get you back if something happens, and at the moment. And then we saw a scene of Apocalypse seemingly going gray like Optimus Prime in Transformers the movie. So
No.
so I took that upon it. I was like, well, maybe they just killed him then, because that was pretty much the thing. But or maybe it was just like they were, because it was Magneto and Xavier pretty much telling them, hey, this is what's going on, and it wouldn't be no great loss if it took some time for you to come back due to what's going on with the resurrection protocols. But apparently he's alive, but was still gravely issued, which has been pretty much taken care of in this issue, but not before him launching into a story about his wife, I guess, who's I think no longer around, or maybe will probably show back up at some point, because I know this person had been mentioned during the course of X of Ten of Swords. Right. So, but it was pretty much a story about how Apocalypse started doing the things he was doing, I guess, early on in his career. So that kind of what led him to judging Earth and mutants and all that kind of good mess to come back to this point.
Right, and he basically goes out once we get that little flashback out of the way. He basically goes out to reclaim the sword, his scarab sword that is prophesied as part of this tournament. So that's the rest of the issue. I was going to just ask or just mention that I'm curious to find out how the Twilight Sword plays into the story, as that is the traditional weapon of Surtur, the king of Muspelheim, normally an occupant of the Thor comic book. So
right, and they have mentioned it because they mentioned it in this issue, and they mentioned it in passing.
Because that's how Krakoa and Arakko are supposedly split in twain. So is Surtur involved in this somehow? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's not like the X-Men and Asgard and Thor haven't, met and done things. So
right, and we know that that's the whole point of the Asgardian whatchamacallit, pantheon, is that they were oftentimes meddling in earthly affairs. So, the Asgardian, mythology, they're oftentimes dealing with earthly affairs. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to have something like that happen.
Right, especially in the X Corner, because that's how we got Danny Moonstar being a Valkyrie in the first place.
And all sorts of things. So,
yes.
Like
Storm
and all sorts of
yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, which actually brings me to mind. It's like, wait, maybe Danny Moonstar gets the sword? I doubt it, but because we still don't know. Well, no, because the prophecy is pretty much clear on a whole bunch of a few people. Like, there's a couple of them still not clear on, but they're still like for the most part, who is what with the prophecy on some of that stuff. So that being said, I think we're done with that, unless you got something else on it.
No. We've got a lot of books to go through, so I'm going to spin up the minigun if that's okay.
Hit it. Rapido fire, cuz. Am I going to watch Fast and Furious? Anyway, you want to go or you want me to go?
I think we read a lot of the same stuff, so I'll go because we can do the stuff we have in common at the same time. Arrow number 12.
Yep.
This is apparently the last issue for now. We end on a cliffhanger. It's interesting to see Iron Man in older armor from what we're used to seeing now, as well as seeing Arrow go through her own training montage. Arrow's relationship with Madame Huang seems to have more to it as we go forward.
Yeah, it's still weird on that part, because it's like, well, she's come off as a villain, but she's also the one training, and we've gotten past stuff and present stuff, and it's been weird to read on this one. But also this issue's kind of half of the issue was pretty much spent glowing on how nice it was to finally work with an established hero or an Avenger, Iron Man, just giving him his props and all that. I was like, okay, can we get more action instead of her monologuing about this? But yeah, that was the crux of the book. And then, like Agent 7 said, it gets a training montage and something else I was going to actually say about the book, but that's pretty much it.
It's funny that you bring that up because it makes me think, where are we in relation to Agents of Atlas on this?
Right.
Because she's dealing with some established heroes in that.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up because she says early on in this book, she was like, yeah, it's nice to work with a team. I'm sitting like, wait, you're working with a team, Agents of Atlas, but this probably could have been set before that.
More likely than not.
Yeah, because we like you said, we don't necessarily know the timing of this, even though we've seen like there's been a backup story that has been related to what's kind of going on.
So it's more likely than not that this all happens well before any of the stuff that we know of Arrow with regards to the Agents of Atlas.
Right. And last but not least, though, she also gets another potential new villain that may or may not be patterned off of Iron Man.
Right. Yeah, so I don't believe this book is solicited in the near future.
Right.
I think this is the last issue for now, but I have a suspicion that because we ended on that cliffhanger, we might very well be seeing more of Arrow in the future.
I would hope so, yeah, because at the end of the book, they was like, you want to see more Arrow? Check out Agents of Atlas, which we haven't seen that book in a minute, but we do know issues are coming.
We do know why.
Right.
You know why?
Why?
It's because they were tying it into King in Black.
Which...
I kid you not, it's in the January solicits.
Oh, I'm not doubting that. It's just stupid. Yeah. And we've talked about
in the January solicits. It came out tonight. The next Agents of Atlas book is tied into King in Black, and what are you gonna do? So anyway, next up for me is next up for me is Batman 101. Batman's new status quo is established as Lucius Fox has become Wayne family rich, and Bruce Wayne is forced to scale back his spending as Batman as a result. He even sets up moving out of Wayne Manor. It's not exactly new ground, but it sounds a lot like what's happening in Iron Man right now. I guess taking away the billionaire's money is all the rage. Ha, ha, ha. Also,
got to do something to reinvent them.
Say again?
Got to do something to reinvent them.
It's funny. And also, they reintroduced Grifter of the Wildstorm universe into the DC universe, and they set up Catwoman's status quo. And are they setting up Catwoman's status quo for the near future and leading up to the Tom King Catwoman book? We shall see. Next up for me is Daredevil number 23. I definitely recommend Daredevil to anyone who is looking for something to pick up. We catch up on the history of Kirsten McDuffie, reintroduced last issue. Daredevil sets things right with both Elektra and Spider-Man, while establishing a new kingpin of crime for New York City, while Wilson Fisk remains mayor of New York City. The cliffhanger of the book teases Zdarsky's plot lines circling back.
Before you go no further, I know for some strange reason there was an interesting mention of Shadowland in an article this week. I don't know if that has anything to do with what you just said, but that is just something to know. And you can see that article in the show notes in the clickbait section.
Okay. Next up is a book I believe you read, Falcon and Winter Soldier number 4.
Yep, this was fun.
All right, so I finally broke down and read this. It's interesting to read about someone with a twisted agenda trying to reform Hydra, sort of. This natural character is still annoying, but I'm an old curmudgeon now, apparently.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, and they really need to give that fool another name. But he's a kid, so, I mean, of course he's going to be somewhat annoying, because he's basically a Captain America fanboy. And I do like, though, in something that kind of mirrors real life, people have this notion of Captain America, and Sam and Bucky are like, okay, well, you do know that Captain America, it has a Jewish parents, and the super serum was by a German doctor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's basically
he's the son of Irish immigrants.
Exactly. So they basically say because there are people out there in real life on social media who's like, oh, Captain America, da 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 da. I was like, okay, yeah, but y'all don't realize they do the same thing with Superman, who's an alien, but.
Right.
but in this, they pretty much channel. I feel like they channel some of that in this issue with the natural being, these probably not as bad as these people, but
being ignorant of the facts of the character.
Yeah, but also loving the character.
Oh, but being ignorant of the character as well. So.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, loving the character, but being ignorant of some of the background of it. So they basically was like, yeah, Captain America is Steve is America because he's a melding of all these other things, and not because X, Y, and other Z would like people think. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So next up for me is Iron Man #2. I believe you read this also.
I did.
So Tony's on a search for self right now, and that's fine. It's interesting that the new Korvac is essentially a fourth version of Adam Warlock, produced by the Enclave.
Wait, where was that established?
What's that?
Where was that part established?
Right at the beginning.
Okay, because I know there was Adam. When did Warlock ever have a cybernetic body?
No, but the thing is, here's the thing. He was grown by the Enclave. It's a group of scientists. Yeah. This is way back in Fantastic Four #66.
Okay.
And I believe the scientist that's named here is probably not the same, but probably related to, because he's got the same last name of one of the doctors in that group.
Okay. So it's basically Korvac's essence with Adam Warlock's being grown in the same way as Adam Warlock with a cybernetic body.
We don't know yet. He just says, call me Korvac.
Right.
So we don't know all of those details yet, but they mentioned Enclave and they call him Adam 4. So that leads me to believe that, that these are the same folks that created Adam Warlock.
Okay, see, that part I didn't pick up on. I was just thinking that they've tried 3 other times before, and this is okay. Well, I didn't pick up on that part. Okay.
So he's at least, or at least he's produced by the Enclave, or at least the latest version of the Enclave. Arcade makes a guest appearance away from Black Widow, and Crusher Creel makes an appearance away from the pages of the Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
And Cardiac makes an appearance and rightfully criticizes the healthcare system in the U.S.
Yeah, away from Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, but yeah.
Right. And we get a showing of how Iron Man is actually still very vulnerable, even though he has armor.
Which, I mean, it's not like we didn't know that, but sure, they're bringing him back to basics with us, and so it's they're putting him in a vulnerable state for a reason that I assume. I still say they're getting them back to basics and back to the old classic Tony Stark and not the MCU version, and I'm hoping that's the case, but that's just me. Anyway, continue.
It's still going to be a combination, I think, of the two.
Yeah.
Next up for me is Juggernaut #2. Did you read this?
I have.
So this was a story that was an interesting reflection in so many ways on the commonalities and differences between the Juggernaut and the Hulk. We also get some more information on when this happens in relation to the establishment of Krakoa.
Yes. I enjoyed this issue a good bit, and yeah, the whole part about the whole YouTube and quote unquote YouTube influencing thing is slightly annoying to me, but in service of where this of this episode of this issue goes, and by the way, and it's set before they was nice enough to say it's set up before Immortal Hulk #30, which is pretty much the last few issues ago. I think probably before what happens with everything that's going on in the book right now that led up to right now. And yeah, I do love the fact that it was like, okay, even though, so yeah, the Hulk and Juggernaut fought, but it didn't last that long. And I do love how the fact that basically the Hulk still won, even though he lost.
Right.
By what happens at the end of near the end of the book. I'm like, well, touche. There you go. And puts Kane in a place. Now, the fact that, like you said, set up the whole Krakoa thing, that was big. That was kind of a big oof. It was like the man was in the hospital. And he was like, "Yeah, man, can I come to the thing and be on the X-Men?" Like, dude, you're not a mutant, which we knew was gonna happen. Like, you're not a mutant, so you're not invited. Sorry, but I'm rooting for you. I'm hoping you're gonna make some good decisions. Poop. It's like, damn,
exactly.
Xavier, that's your brother, man. Your half brother, but still.
Exactly.
That was cold.
Exactly. No, but at the same time, I feel like at least they didn't necessarily part on the worst terms.
Oh, totally.
So
Yeah, totally. But it was still kind of cold, though. It was like, I was like, now I see why he's been coming against you all these years. You've been, no, I'm just kidding. But, because it weirdly enough took me back to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in that episode where the Juggernaut's coming after the X-Men for some stupid reason. But,
like when he sounded like the Hulk, right?
yeah.
Raw.
Well,
Okay.
none of that. He was like, I'm coming for you, Charles Xavier.
Yeah, the same roar sounds as the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Which I need to pull that clip because I always love that sound. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
Next up, speaking of the Hulk, Maestro #3. It's tough to read the Hulk's slow descent into the Maestro character. We also find out what happened to Marlowe. Honestly, I wouldn't care at all about this story if it weren't for the fact that Peter David, the original writer behind Future Imperfect, is behind the story.
Yeah, speaking of that, so yeah, the backup story pretty much deals with what happened to Marlowe, and I'm like, oh, why are they doing this? Like, it's again, we have, I don't know, they've done this to female characters in the past, and it's like, nope, this is just like, just bam, literally in this case, blam. This whole story was just set up what happened to her, and they just like, well, here we go, just shot her. Spoilers. But yeah, the rest of the issue was pretty much like, hey, met up with Hercules, who apparently is the Maestro. They had a little bit of a tussle, and then the Hulk meets up with Rick Jones, and pretty much tells Rick Jones like, nah, screw humans. So I'm gonna go off and do this other thing, and he goes off to do this other thing, and then goes back to the city and starts some shit.
There you go. All right. Next up is and I'm still trying to remind, we did this off camera just before the show, still trying to remind Roddykat that he does need to read Future Imperfect sooner rather than later.
It'll happen.
Thanks to Marvel Unlimited, which is now, I think you probably have it in the
it's in the news. We'll get there. Yeah, it's in the news. We'll get there.
So, anyway, next up is Spider-Woman #5. My unfamiliarity with Spider-Woman's origin again rears its head, and I have to remind myself to go back and read up on her connection to the High Evolutionary. There's a lot of stuff happening in this issue. I was kind of thrown off kilter a little bit, and I was just like, you know what? I need to figure out how all these folks are supposed to be connected.
So here's the thing. Just like Carol Danvers, Jessica's backstory is a little crazed, convoluted, some would say. Just it kind of goes places. So yeah, good luck with that. Although, I mean, there's I'm sure you can go hit the wiki and get the finer points. But
right, without having to take a look for all of the books on Marvel Unlimited, but at the same time, it might be worth it. I'll start with the wiki. I'll start with the the Ohatmu.
I can guarantee you. Yeah, I can guarantee you. There's probably some stuff in there that'll be like, okay, I need to read about this.
Yeah.
And also worth noting that while this is issue 5, this is legacy issue number 100 for her, which is why it's a slightly bigger slightly bigger book. So unless you're finished, I don't know if you were finished with what you were going to say because I'll go into my notes real quick. Okay, legacy issue 100 with that sweet Greg Land cover.
Wait! I've got Hey, boo!
I did that for just specifically for
I really hope I haven't picked up my books yet this week. I think I'll be going in tomorrow to pick them up. I'm honestly hoping and praying that I can get a variant cover.
Which is another thing to bring up that I didn't have in my notes. Basically, Jess versus her mother. And just like I said, last week or two before, it's always about clones with these spider people, and sure enough, that is pretty much the thing that's happened here. And we get the answer as to why Jess is keeping the new suit, even though we didn't necessarily need an answer to that. But yeah, and throughout so there's the main story, which kind of gets to a place, and then there's the backstory, which in the midst of the backstory, or not the backstory, the backup story, excuse me. There are a series of I don't know if there were actual variant colors or faux variant colors that gets interspersed in between it, which is slightly kind of jarring because it kind of breaks it up. It breaks up the action, but it's also kind of neat. they may or may not have something to do with the what is going on in the backup story, but doesn't seem like it. But also, we found out from the backstory that Jess is going to space with Carol next issue.
Right.
All right.
All right, and last for me is Nightwing number 75. Of course, I jumped out of order alphabetically on this. It's like Batman 101. We get a new status quo for Nightwing, and the KG Beast is back to finish the job, and that's it.
Yeah, I saw something about that. I was like, I was almost tempted to check that out, but I was like, I haven't really been keeping up on that whole thing. So
It's one of those anniversary type issues where, much like Fantastic 425, you can jump on and, they really do a decent job of making sure you don't need to have read everything to see where we're going now.
Right. And weirdly enough, I've recently read that Batman Pennyworth RIP book issue for some strange reason.
Okay.
And of course that was back when, like right out, to when Dick was still Rick. Because I know he's back now, back to his old self now or whatever. So that was, it was a weird read, even though, I hadn't been keeping up with any of that stuff. Regardless, so you're done with yours?
Yeah, I am done. You can go right ahead.
Cool. So I only have a couple of books because we've kind of dealt the thing on this. Wait, let me make sure. Yep. Werewolf by Night, #1. Let's get it started in here. So now that I got that out of the way, so this is the book that was being written by Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas and I think Benjamin Jackendorf or something like that. I don't know. There's another name that's said in the beginning of this issue. That's probably still him, but sure. Sun's getting real low, big guy, because it's kind of I thought was kind of a sort of a reference to that in this. So basically, this is a story of Jake Gomez, who is a Native American kid, I think he's around 17 years old, who has inherited the powers of Werewolf by Night. We don't know who his father is. I slightly suspect, even though we get mentions of his father, but not necessarily the former Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell, but I suspect the two might be related. I don't know. But we pretty much get to see, this story pretty much establishes, this character. He's already in relatively full command of his power. The people close to him knows who he is. Like his grandmother and his I guess his best friend, girlfriend, whoever she is. Molly, I believe her name was. And he's working at this one big company as a janitor or something, but there's some shenanigans going on in there. And his friend Molly was like, well, we can go in there and do some good and mess up the place because we know they're probably doing something bad. Going to find out that might be the case. And on the other side of this, we see we see another character that we haven't seen in a minute, Red Wolf, come into play. And apparently he's working with the feds now, which boo, but as we know, Red Wolf kind of was yanked out the past into the present and was getting established as of a few years ago, but it seems to be kind of sort of established and outlawed is mentioned here, and we get Red Wolf's thoughts on that. So we can pretty much rightly assume that the two characters are probably going to meet at some point, even though they almost did in this issue, but they have not done so yet. And there's also another thing where there are people getting kidnapped off of reservations that comes into play at the end of the book, and another group of people that Jake ends up running into that may or may not have something to do with it, or probably doing the same thing as he was attempting to do at the time. But we don't know. I think this is a 6-issue miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. I'll probably have to look that up. But I don't know, that whole, we don't know how much of the heavy lifting that Taboo is doing with the writing, or what his input is on this one. But it seems interesting enough to check out the next issue of, just to see if it's going to go anywhere. I will say that. Teen Titans number 46. So the team's kind of sort of back together again, and they're pretty much they're still trying to find Damien, but now they have the help of Superboy, who for some strange reason can come back and forth from the future, which kind of messed with me for a second. I was like, well, he's from the future. You would think you would know where Damien was. But apparently, and they come to find out that they're on a wild goose chase, and Damien's not going to get found by them. So Superboy leaves, and the team, kind of takes some time to once again to kind of reevaluate the situations. But at the end of the issue, a former lesser villain strikes a couple of members of the team and kind of does a thing that's going to bear out in the next couple of issues. And this, I know we do know that Teen Titans is ending, and we also know that Future State is forthcoming, which one has to do with the other more than likely than not. But regardless, here we are. Last book, Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn #1. So this is set in the Elseworlds world of Batman White Knight, which I still say folks should read because it's really good. Who cares if it's an Elseworld? A good story is a good story. I know some people have a problem with that kind of stuff for some stupid reason. I'm like, that, so what if it's not canon? It's still a good read. Anyway, this is pretty much sets place a couple of years after the events of the last miniseries. There's been like 3 of the Batman White Knight miniseries by Sean Gordon Murphy and crew. Harley's a mom, got a couple of kids, and she's pretty much, dealing with life a couple of years after Azrael does what he does. Batman's in jail, so we get a glimpse of Bruce, Bruce still in the town because they talk. But the crux of the story is Duke, yes, that Duke, the Signal, but he's not going by the Signal in this universe. He's kind of grown up and working for the GCPD, or with the GCPD. Well, he's not necessarily working for the GCPD, but a kind of an offshoot of the GCPD that was established in previous miniseries. But they need help on a case dealing with serial killers of golden age movie stars, which, funny enough, one of the victims happens to be a person named James Turner. And the murder happens in Turner Mansion, which, if folks are keen, might have some allusion to Ted Turner, who's not a movie star, but I'm just saying, it's right there. And the victims get kind of dressed up in the murder scene gets dressed up in a scene of old movies, which we come to find out that the person that is involved is a character that was established in the last volume of the miniseries, who was pretty much a Joker idol, who idolized Joker, but they kind of swept him away during the course of that whole thing, and now has become the person that Harley is going to go after at the end of this issue. This seems all right. I like this version of Harley because and there's also a slight retconning of their Joker, aka Jack Napier, in this universe. This is first meeting. It was not as what history classically knows as, but in a slightly different setting under a different way. But of course, the Bat is also involved. So, like I said, if you've read those other couple of other few Batman White Knight miniseries and interested in the character, check this out because it seems like a neat start so far. And that is it for me.
All righty, so I guess it is time for Clicks of the Week.
And we got one click from one of our absentee partners here. Fantastic Four number 5 is Tim's click of the week.
25.
25, excuse me. Sorry. Three. Fantastic Four 25 for Tim, but he also said that was the only book he had read. So
I was about to say Roddykat calling out the signals for the play.
no, that was a Monty Python reference, but that's fine.
Oh, okay. That's funny. I was about to say I got football on the brain. Yeah, unfortunately, PCN_Dirt said that he had not yet read anything this week, so that's fine. I will say that my click of the week, as I said earlier, is between Fantastic Four number 25 and Guardians of the Galaxy number 17. But I think in the end, I will go with Tim Dog 98 and second Fantastic Four number 25.
Nice. I'm sorry, just checking. I am kind of halfway to thirding that notion. Because there were some fun books this week. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier was fun. Guardians was definitely pretty good. I guess Spider-Man for what it was. I don't know. That Juggernaut book was actually surprisingly good, even though, you know what? Yes, I'm going to go with Juggernaut. I'm going to go with Juggernaut number 2. I did definitely enjoy Fantastic Four number 25, and and it's definitely a potential click of the weekend. And definitely was a pretty great read, and you should definitely do it. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Juggernaut number 2. Just for a little bit of sprinkling here.
All right.
And with that, we will transition over into the news. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store because we all should try to do that and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And as we do every week about this time, we start off with the cinematic news. There was a lot of it. We're going to try to burn through some of this. I am sorry, not sorry at all. DuckTales, Matt.
As I nod my head.
Hey, look, there was some good stuff I thought was this week. So whatever. Matt Youngberg and Francisco Agones, my apologies, on fitting in Darkwing Duck. So Darkwing Duck. So basically, this is the executive producers of DuckTales talking about, basically Darkwing Duck and them trying to fit it into the current DuckTales season. It's a fairly interesting read. You should check that out. Next up.
It's been revealed that the upcoming Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers live-action movie is coming to Disney+. It's also been revealed that the movie will begin production in spring of 2021. It's believed that the original voice cast, including Tress MacNeille, Chip and Gadget, Corey Burton, Dale and Zipper, and Jim Cummings, Monterey Jack, are returning for the movie, but that has yet to be officially confirmed by Disney at this time. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is set to be directed by Akiva Schaffer, who says the movie will be meta, something self-referential and cool. Okay.
Don't mess this up. Whatever you do, don't mess this up if you're going to do it. Anyway. Rumor, Bo-Katan will co-star in Cara Dune's Mandalorian spinoff. So apparently there's a rumor that Gina what's her last name?
Carano,
thank you. Gina Carano's character is going to get a spinoff from The Mandalorian, and that quite potentially Bo-Katan, the sister of wow, I am blanking on names right now. Satine, thank you.
The Countess.
Yes, the Mandalorian's well, reps the teen. Anyway, that still hurts. Anyway, Satine's sister Bo-Katan, who was a part of Death Watch, and I know has a turn in Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7, which I still haven't gotten to yet, may possibly make a live-action debut in this rumored series. But we'll see if any of that comes to pass. Next.
All right, next up, Star Wars fans are eagerly awaiting the October 30th debut of The Mandalorian Season 2, and not just because we all need our Baby Yoda fix. Season 2 promises to expand the scope of the series and bring in a few fan-favorite characters for good measure. We can look forward to Temuera Morrison reprising the role of iconic bounty hunter Boba Fett, while both Bo-Katan Kryze, as we mentioned just now, and Ahsoka Tano herself are said to be making the jump from animation to live action. But there is a hint that Sabine Wren could join her fellow Mandalorians in battling the Darksaber-wielding Moff Gideon and liberating their homeworld. Apparently, there's an article here that goes through all the clues.
Which, depending on... Well, we know when this is set, so we know she's going to be an adult. Because at first when I read this, I'm like, well, wait a minute. That's not... Because she would be young at this, but no, this is set after Return of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken. Or, I totally forgot where the hell this thing is set at, now that I'm thinking about it. But basically, it is some later time. So she would be of some sort of adult age. So if that is coming to pass, I hope that happens. And I'm kind of curious as to who they would get to play Sabine. So, next up, speaking of The Mandalorian, but not, Obi-Wan Kenobi star Ewan McGregor donned his old costume for camera tests on The Mandalorian set. So apparently, let's see, Ewan McGregor was on some podcast and he told the host that he had already put on the iconic Jedi Master's robe for a camera test while visiting the set of The Mandalorian with director Deborah Chow. I personally find it hard to believe that you just go into a set for just a camera test. So I'm kind of halfway wondering if, Obi-Wan's going to show up on the Mandalorian in some kind of way. But that's just me speculating and not this article. But anyway, Ewan McGregor says, it was funny walking on set because it was a lot of the Mandalorian crew and I walked on and it was a big moment. I walked into the dressing room and there was my beige cloaks and my belts and boots. Like it was, oh my God, it's my old costume. It was amazing. So, yeah. Again,
it's nice that he can still fit into them.
I know, right? So... Which, yeah, I guess given, because he has, I know his last role that I know of was he was in Birds of Prey, and he still seemed in relatively similar shape, but then again, he had on a suit, so you really can't tell, and those robes are probably, it's a robe, so I'm sure they're not,
Exactly.
They expand a little bit. I mean, granted, the robe itself, but not the inside stuff.
Right.
The garment. Anyway, so yeah, there is that. We'll see if anything else comes out of that. But if that was just it, and he was just there on some camera test, because I'm assuming this Deborah Chow, who was the director, he's probably working on his show also. So maybe that was just it, and the speculation is just mine alone. But we'll see. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, Marvel's MODOK showrunners, Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum, revealed that Marvel gave them the green light to use characters from the X-Men universe in Hulu's upcoming adult stop-motion animated series. This all happened during Hulu's MODOK presentation at New York Comic Con, where a pair of first-look clips were revealed. Patton Oswalt, who also voices the eponymous villain, discussed what fans can expect from the show alongside Blum. Amy Garcia, Ben Schwartz, and Melissa Fumero. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Spider-Man 3's first look is reportedly coming in 2020. There's not much left in 2020, so if they're going to do that, get a move on. Expo Cine 2020, Sony Pictures has allegedly said that we'll get our first look at Spider-Man Far From Home's sequel in December 2020. As reported by some rumor site, or some site, Camila Pacheco, the probably not related to Carla, or maybe she is, or maybe they are, who knows. The executive marketing director of Sony Pictures Entertainment in Brazil told attendees that the film has already started production and that we would get our first look at the film this December 2020. So yeah, stay tuned for that, if that should happen. She also confirmed that Spider-Man 3's December 17th, 2021 release date is still what the studio is planning. So there you go. Next.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has cast the Babysitters Club star Xochitl Gomez in a mystery role. After the events of Avengers Endgame, Benedict Cumberbatch is returning to the role of Doctor Strange for a new solo film in Phase 4. The movie was originally set to hit theaters in 2021 and be directed by Scott Derrickson, but changes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we'll see it released in 2022 with Sam Raimi directing. So that's interesting that they have cast this actress in a mystery role. I have seen reports of both. My initial suspicion was that it was going to be what's her face, the assistant, the new assistant.
That's where I'm thinking. Yeah, Zelma Stanton. Yeah. But this article goes on to say that they're thinking it might be a young America Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
So either one's fine with me. I would kind of want Zelma, to be honest, because we don't know, but it has been rumored that America Chavez could, if not, she doesn't show up here, might possibly show up some kind of way in WandaVision or something. I'm not entirely sure, but this would probably be a likely place as any for that to be the case. But I'm still hoping not for Zelma. Next up, Marvel taps. Speaking of, actually, Marvel taps Puerto Rican director Alessandra Lopez for a mystery audio project. So this actually article has changed since I first got it because, as it says here at the top, originally believed to be a film project, director Alessandra Lopez has teased work on a scripted audio project featuring Marvel characters. So, as you see here, it's been updated to revealed that it was an audio series and not a film stuff. So technically, she's not joining the MCU in a way. So Lopez posted the news on her Facebook account, writing that her next project will take her to Burbank, California, sharing a photo of herself in the studio with the Marvel logo displayed above her on the TV screen. It's not known what project it is that she's going to direct, and this goes into Phase 4 film stuff. But since we now know that it's not a film thing, I was partially thinking it was the aforementioned America Chavez, something to do with America Chavez. But it seemed like that. Still very much could be, but we don't know. But it's also an audio thing right now, so it's not what people originally thought it was. Next up,
the Avengers are the latest group in Hollywood to support Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden by hosting a virtual fundraiser. Voters assemble featured Avengers cast members Don Cheadle, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Paul Rudd, Mark Ruffalo, and Zoe Saldana, and they joined vice presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris, and Avengers Infinity War directors the Russo brothers for a Q&A and trivia. The fundraiser took place on October 20th, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so as I just said, that was a couple of days ago as of this recording, and I didn't catch any of it, but it is what it is. And no, we're not going to talk about that stupid Chris Pratt thing. Screw that dude. That is so sad. Anyway. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is bringing back characters from some of the earliest Marvel movies. So Falcon and Winter Soldier has a new Captain America, a new suit for Sam Wilson's Falcon, and potentially even a new change of allegiance for a Marvel villain. But it's not all out with the old. Falcon and Winter Soldier and John Wick writer Derek Kolstad has teased the return of some familiar faces. Quote unquote. These are characters from the earliest Marvel movies that are coming back. They are layering them in and reinventing them in such a way that it's going to be a shift in the storyline structure. Kolstad told some podcast about the Disney Plus show. So it didn't give any clues yet, but it sounds like it may yet draw from that Phase 1 pool of talent in the same way in the upcoming WandaVision is bringing back Kat Dennings from the first Thor movie, or from the Thor movies. Anyway, next.
Netflix has dropped the first trailer for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the last film Chadwick Boseman worked on before his death in August. This would be an empty world without the blues, Viola Davis's Ma Rainey announces as the trailer opens. And you can go and tune in to that.
Yep, that's the Viola Davis movie, and like I said, Chadwick's last one. Smallville's Laura Vandervoort wishes Supergirl got more closure. So before the Arrowverse took over, there was Smallville, the CW's adaptation of Superman's Mythos. The show ran for 10 seasons, charting Clark's early life to his move to Metropolis and becoming the Man of Steel, and apparently him finally getting the suit at the last episode, which people have had some issues with. During the 10-season run, many characters from Clark's lore were adapted, including Supergirl. At the New York Comic Con's Smallville reunion panel, Laura Vandervoort, who played Supergirl on the show, expressed her desire for Kara to have more closure. The moderator asked the panel if everyone liked how their characters developed over time and what the cast wished the writers had explored. Vandervoort replied, "It's hard for me to remember every episode and what her arc was. I have said publicly that I wish Kara was more in the finale. At the wedding, she didn't have closure. She showed her flew off and we never saw her again. It would have been nice for myself personally, and I think for the characters that have said goodbyes, I didn't have any proper goodbyes." So, there you go. Next.
All right. Titans has started production, and cinematographer Boris Moshovsky celebrated returning to set with a series of new photos from season 3. Moshovsky shared the photos on Instagram. Titan season 3, day 1. Yup, for real. He wrote as the caption, but didn't exactly say it that way. One image shows a set location, while another debuts the Titans-themed hand sanitizer the show is giving to its cast and crew while it films during the coronavirus pandemic.
And you too can make your own hand sanitizer by following these simple steps. What I will go through right now. I really won't, but I should probably put that article in the news. In the thing, just for giggles. Not giggles, just for sake. We still need hand sanitizer. Is still a thing people need, folks. Wash your hands.
Yep.
Wash your hands. Wash your face. Wear your masks. God damn it.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot easier to get now, but it's still something we're going to need for a while.
This is true. Suicide Squad spinoff show reportedly starts filming in January. James Gunn's Suicide spinoff series Peacemaker reportedly starts filming in January. One of the many upcoming additions to the DC Extended Universe in 2021, John Cena's Peacemaker will be a new member of Task Force X in Gunn's sequel reboot of 2016's Suicide Squad. While Suicide Squad does not hit theaters until next August, Cena is already reprising his role in a Peacemaker spin-off series for HBO Max, which we kind of already talked about in the past. But it's eight episodes, and the title is once again described as a douchey Captain America. And the series will see Gunn producing and writing every episode and directing several episodes, as we have said in the past.
Next up, Doom Patrol Season 2 smashes onto Blu-ray and DVD early next year. Get ready to embrace the strange. DC's favorite misfit heroes are back to save the world once again, with the release of Doom Patrol, the complete second season, on Blu-ray and DVD on January 26, 2021, from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. So you get all nine episodes from the second season. The price is $29.98 for the DVD and $39.99 for the Blu-ray, which includes a digital copy. Okay.
or you can watch it on HBO Max if you got that. Haha.
Two.
But be sure to smash that like button. Oh, I'm sorry. Jared Leto's Joker joined Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh no.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. Jared Leto's Joker is returning to the DC Extended Universe for Zack Snyder's Justice League. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Leto is taking part in the reshoots for the 4-part HBO Max miniseries, which will serve as Snyder's definitive take on the 2017 film, which shouldn't be coming out. Stupid fans. Leto's... Sorry, that last part was me editorializing. Leto played the Joker, and y'all already know that. We don't... I watched Suicide Squad fairly recently, and he's still the most sucky part of that movie. And that's probably saying something, but who knows? Huh?
So that's saying a lot.
Yeah. In fact, let's see. Warner Bros. Interference with Suicide Squad and the eventual success of the release the Snyder Cut movement resulted in a similar fan campaign to convince the studio to release David Ayer's original cut of his film, The Suicide Squad. But basically, it's just saying that his Leto's role in Suicide Squad was kind of cut for reasons. Who cares? He didn't need to be in there. Next up.
Justice League producers Jeff Johns and John Berg will reportedly have their producer credits removed from the Zack Snyder cut of the film slated to arrive on HBO Max in 2021. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Johns and Berg will not receive producer credits on the Snyder cut, which is currently undergoing reshoots. The site goes on to state that sources close to Berg and Johns have confirmed their intentions to remove their names from the Snyder cut since they are not working on the project and are no longer Warner Brothers studio executives. Okay.
Sure. All right. Michael Keaton says his Batman return isn't official yet. We're having discussions, quote unquote. So this is kind of feels like almost like that Tatiana Maslany news from last week. But recent reports have suggested that, they did more than suggest, that Michael Keaton was in line for a surprise return as Batman in 2022's The Flash opposite Ezra Miller. The actor, though, has cooled speculation in a new update during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Keaton, unsurprisingly, was reluctant to rubber bat stamp his return as the Caped Crusader. Quote, "We are having discussions, as they say. We're talking about it. We'll see if it happens." Something the actor was keen to share, though, was his opinion on his favorite Batman, especially off the back of him potentially starring alongside another Dark Knight in Ben Affleck in the 2022 DC movie. So, out of all the on-screen bats, from George Clooney to Christian Bale, who was his favorite? Me, Keaton says enthusiastically. He also jokes that all 27, quote-unquote, all 127 Batmen would show up for The Flash. Which I'm pretty sure he was joking, that. So, yeah. So, I guess, that's... there was no confirmation on whether he was returning or not, even though news cycles kind of picked it up and ran with it at the time. Just like the other stuff. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. Let's see. Actor Michael B. Jordan and his team at Outlier Society have signed on to produce DC's upcoming Static Shock movie. As first reported by The Hollywood Reporter, Jordan is joining director Reginald Hudlin on the upcoming theatrical release based on the 1993 comic series of the same name. Cool.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully they don't mess it up. Adrian Palicki opened up about the Wonder Woman show that never was. I believe October 18th was Wonder Woman Day. So that's, I believe, why a lot of this news coming out, including, actually, I will go ahead and say that Linda Carter wrote an article for the Mary Sue, which we will find in the clickbait section, which was a nice love letter to, the Wonder Woman's fans, basically. Well, not quite, but regardless, you should check it out. It's a good read. But yeah, there was a time where we almost got a different Wonder Woman show. David E. Kelly from Ally McBeal's and Big Little Lies was slated to bring us a live-action Wonder Woman TV, and Adrian Palicki was playing the title character. That never happened, and I think there is still the pilot still floating around out there. If anybody's gotten the chance to see it, I still have yet to see it. Now that I think about it, but we also know Adrian Palicki ends up being Mockingbird, and we're all better for it. But she did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and Palicki opened up about her brief moment as Diana Prince and the show that never aired, which was due to NBC's decision not to pick up the series as a pilot. She says, it was the scariest thing ever and the best thing ever at the time. Getting to wear the outfit was just a huge dream. And then the article just goes on to talk about how different that show was from anything in canon or excuse me, even Linda Carter's version of the show. So, but you can check that out.
Next up, Star Trek Discovery has been renewed for season 4. The cast appeared in a special video to announce that filming for the next season will begin on November 2nd. Good for them.
Yeah, I think season G3 just started up recently, actually, and I'm hearing good things about it. I still yet to check out that show outside of the first couple episodes. Space Jam synopsis for LeBron James's sequel services. Synopsis for Space Jam: A New Legacy. The upcoming sequels, the upcoming sequel to 1996's Space Jam. A little bit of editing goes a long way, folks. Has found its way online, and teases NBA superstar LeBron James embarking on a quest with cartoon icons Bugs Bunny through various Warner Brother worlds. The synopsis was shared on Twitter, which some of you probably saw, by Final Space writer Ben Meckler. And it kind of goes on to it, which I won't go into it, but you can read about it if you didn't see it on Twitter. Next
up, Legendary Pictures is developing a new Buck Rogers film.
Beady.
With plans to expand into a full-fledged franchise. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Legendary secured the rights to the character, and the movie will be produced by Angry Films' Don Murphy and Susan Montford. From there, the team plans to branch the property out into a television and anime series. Okay. Well, if they get another, what was her name? Erin Gray? I'm down.
Right? Wait, she's around. I wonder if they'll have her not reprise a role, but just kind of pop in. Man, I was gonna ask you if you remember that show, but it sounds like you did, given that the one other.
All I remember is Erin Gray.
Yeah, see, that's pretty much like, don't get me wrong. Yeah, Gil Gerard, he did whatever, and of course, Twiggy and all that kind of good mess. But yeah, Erin Gray, yeah, definitely. Next up, The Last Starfighter 2 is finally moving forward, confirms writer. Yeah, so audience love the 80 years and returning to the Duskgate has been a surefire way to hit the right. And so, let's skip all of that. What's this dude's name? Jonathan Bettel has now offered a promising update on his long gestating sequel. It looks like we'll be making the deal to get it going. Gary Whitta of Rogue One fame and other things, as a gifted collaborator, will be writing the script together, but it's taking a long time. I had to go through a long process that took years to recapture the rights, and that was recently completed. And although nothing is ever clear sailing, it looks like we'll have a really good opportunity now. So I'm really looking forward to taking it up. So yeah, if that still is going to happen, I guess it will. Next up.
With 3 successful movies, a video game, and ads playing in the background, a number of spin-offs for both TV and cinema in the works, John Wick has been a hit for Lionsgate. Now the company wants to turn its star franchise into a 10-story roller coaster for its Motion Gate theme park in Dubai, as reported by Variety. The John Wick open contract ride, along with another coaster designed after the Now You See Me franchise, is due to open early next year in Dubai. Lionsgate has shared renderings of what both rides are expected to look like, and feel free to check out our show notes to look at that article.
And shout out to Danny, I believe, Impressive Geek. I believe that's what she's still going by. And actually, I can't even remember now. Who basically retweeted and was like, "Are you going to be able to shoot people off that ride, or people are going to get shot off that ride, or something like that?" I'm like, that is a question. You kind of gonna wonder. It's John Wick.
That's funny. I'm watching the ad play.
So. Yeah, you let me know what you think about that. But we were going to move on to I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. Boo!
Oh, this is a travesty.
Yes, it is. Screw all you Apple people, because y'all are the problem. And I'm pointing like y'all can see me right now. You can't.
Oh, that is a travesty.
So Charlie Brown holiday specials won't air on TV this year as they move to Apple TV Plus.
That's a travesty.
It very much is. So for those of us of a certain vintage, the Charlie Brown holiday specials, the Christmas one, the Thanksgiving one, even that other bootleg one that did it in the interim of one of the other holidays, is a staple of network TV. And now, because of shenanigans, it says here, Apple TV Plus has teamed up with WildBrain along with Peanuts Worldwide and Lee Mendelson Film Productions to become the home of all things Peanuts. Which, didn't they just do a Snoopy movie that was on Sony? Just do a Snoopy movie like a couple of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird. But anyway, bringing together new original series and specials along with iconic beloved specials to fans all around the world, all in one place. Boo! God damn it. They used to run on TV. They still should. On ABC, like they have been. So,
I mean,
go ahead.
According to this article, because, of course, this is what makes me read them now, right? As I hear a mouthful of myself. Charlie Brown. What's it? It's the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown's supposed to air for free on Apple Plus for 3 days.
Actually, I think both of them are. Yeah. I think the Christmas one.
The 31st to the 1st.
Yeah, I believe the Christmas one is also.
Yeah, it looks like all three, and Thanksgiving as well.
Right.
But the two main ones are Great Pumpkin and a Charlie Brown Christmas. So yeah, there's going to be a couple of free days. There's a little bit of a window for each special to play on Apple TV Plus. This is bad.
Right.
Hold
now,
hold on, I got this.
Hey, boo!
I will also direct you, you good folks, to as you see me pulling this up right now, an article by Lifehacker, where you can watch classic holiday specials for free. And mostly it's pointing to the Internet Archive VHS, if I'm not mistaken, because of this. And it says here that, because they're doing the Apple TV's doing the whole free thing. It sounds like you can still watch those on the Internet Archive VHS Vault, which there again you can go to the clickbait section and link off to that article and read that and other Christmas specials, not including Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which is on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you should definitely watch that one. But yeah, like I said, this is just a list of other holiday specials that you can check out in addition to the Charlie Brown stuff for free, including the Star Wars holiday special. Sound like trilogy. I don't remember just one of them, but sure. But yeah, that's that. And I'm going to say it one more time. Boo! Next up.
That's just bad. That should be on network TV. That should be something you can find on network TV.
Agreed.
That's bad news, man.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some Apple people who's like, hey, we got good people. Never.
Wait a second. I don't know any Apple people that laugh like that.
There's some. You don't get the right parts of the internet.
Or the wrong parts of the internet.
Or the wrong parts. Yeah.
So,
there's those snotty asses.
Jeez, man, that's just crazy. All right.
But some good news though.
Yeah. Last but not least.
Well, kind of good news.
Right. Hulu has released the first full trailer for the Animaniacs reboot, which brings Yakko, Wacko, and Dot into the 2020s to remind us of our long ago nostalgia and add a little bit more of it to our strange new reality. The debut trailer has revived for Hulu's Animaniacs, which has revived the. Yeah, we know it's revived them. Okay. Yeah, go take a look at the trailer. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they do a take on some things, including like I said, Trump Tinder and mansplaining. It's a pretty good. Did you watch it?
I have not.
Okay.
I've only watched the
teaser.
Which one? Jurassic Park teaser. Yeah.
You should check it out. It's pretty good. So if that's. But anyway, yeah, y'all check it out if you haven't already. So now we're going to move over into the comic book section, and I will go ahead and point out here before we do, again, that the clickbait section's got some stuff that you might want to check out. And also that solicitations have come out for January 2021.
Right, and it's worth taking a look at those and try not to spoil yourself. And we transition.
From Deceased, Damian Wayne's Batman has a major weakness for a Justice League hero. So this is coming off of Deceased Dead Planet number 4, which has been out for a week or two, I think. Or actually, might be. No, it's been out for a minute. Regardless, in the Deceased universe, Damian Wayne's undergone a rebirth, evolving from a bitter teen to a superhero trying to inspire hope after the Blighted Ones took over Earth. He's taken up the mantle of Batman since his dad died in that universe. And John Kent is taken up as the new Superman. And apparently he's leading the likes of Black Canary, Green Lantern, who Black Canary's become the new Green Lantern in that universe. Lois Lane and other seniors at Poison Ivy's garden there to help. However, the Dark Knight has revealed a major weakness in the form of his love for Cassie Sandsmark, the new Wonder Woman. So, yeah, that's the thing. Apparently they bonded at some point during this whole ordeal, and, yeah, Damian's got a thing for Cassie. Next up.
All right, next up, the digital first series Deceased Hope at World's End has been clearing up many of the minor elements of the Deceased universe that weren't explored in the original series, with one long-standing mystery of Deceased Hope at World's End being revealed. During a battle with Superboy and the other survivors, the blighted Black Adam unleashed a massive electrical blast that, among other things, permanently scarred Jimmy Olsen and cost him one of his eyes in Deceased Hope at World's End number 11. Okay.
Which, a lightning blast to someone's eye you would think would take out more than their eye. But, hey, comics. Next up, Deceased just brought a Young Justice powerhouse to the front lines, and this is, again, spoilers for Deceased Hope at World's End 11, which I think came out like last week or something like that. But basically, Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, is now on the front lines, which I don't remember him being in the original series in the first place. So, okay, sure. Next up.
All right, next up we have some spoilers. A DC villain reveals his secret crush on Raven. Okay. There are some truly amazing love stories in the annals of DC Comics. In DC's The Doomed and the Damned lies one such love story involving Beast Boy and Raven enjoying a day date at the wharf, all the while being watched by Clarion the Witch Boy and his familiar Teak. Oh, Teakle. What?
Teakle.
Yeah, Teakle. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, apparently Teakle has a thing for Raven. So okay. Clarion, not Teakle. Anyway. Death Metal. Scott Snyder explains that Superboy Prime change. And spoiler for Dark Knight's Death Metal number 4. It says one of the most shocking moments in Dark Knight's Death Metal was when longtime villain Superboy Prime decided to join the heroes. As a surprise ally, Superboy Prime gave the vital crisis energy they sought to restore. Gave them the vital crisis energy. We are still dealing with crises. And the rest is a interview with CBR with Scott Snyder discussing the change, which you can read in the show notes. Next.
Okay. Under Future State, a new Suicide Squad book will feature Connor Kent / Superboy as its leader. The team's membership includes Batman's shape-shifting foe Clayface, who will morph into Martian Manhunter, Black Adam, and a character from Future State's Teen Titans. Okay.
That's a
Alrighty.
weird looking cover, but yeah, I'm slightly curious about this whole future state stuff as we talked about last week. DC
Right. They revealed. I was about to say they also revealed that the squad is located on Earth 3, which is home to the villainous crime syndicate. So I guess that's where this story might be going.
Right. But yeah, so there's a lot more stuff coming out of Future State from this, or at least that has been coming out of Future State since last week. DC will introduce Teen Titans Academy in 2021's Future State. So this pretty much sounds like the Avengers Initiative. Upon its launch early next year, DC Comics Future State event will introduce a new element to the Teen Titans mythos, the Teen Titans Academy. Per Den of Geek, Future State's Teen Titans title, which comes from the creative team of Tim Sheridan and Rafa Sandoval, reveals that at some point in the future, the Teen Titans Academy was established. At the Academy, veteran members of the team like Nightwing, Raven, and Cyborg train newer members, such as Crush and Roundhouse, to become heroes in their own right. However, the Titans find themselves being, quote-unquote, faced with the students that they could not teach. Future State's Teen Titans #1 takes place in the aftermath of a mysterious betrayal that leaves the Teen Titans Academy in ruins, with most of its students dead. Additionally, the title will feature mainline DC Comics debut of Red X, an original character from 2003's Teen Titans animated series. So, as we talked about kind of last week. Next up.
All right. Future State's Green Lantern puts Jon Stewart back in the spotlight.
Yay.
Jon Stewart takes charge in the DC Future State Green Lantern title, part of DC's line-wide 2021 event, in a story that puts the whole Green Lantern Corps in a dire situation. Speaking with Den of Geek, Justice League Group editor Alex Carr said, Jon Stewart fans, apparently they've heard you. Last Lanterns, the lead story in the 44-page oversized book, sees Jon Stewart leading the charge on a planet just about to be overrun by a galactic religious cult. It's their last stand against this group. However, the central battery that the Lanterns rely on to charge their power rings is out of energy. Carr says, think of it like the Magnificent Seven, all these Green Lanterns with no power rings.
Which I feel like they've done to Jon Stewart specifically and some of the Corps before. So this doesn't feel that different from that. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Next up, though, unless you finish.
Nope, I'm done.
DC introduces a Brazilian Wonder Woman in 2021's Future State. So when Roddykat said last week that Wonder Woman had a new costume, he was mistaken. DC Comics just announced Future State. We already talked about that, but Superman Group editor Jamie S. Rich spoke to IGN about several new Future State concepts. He said we will eventually discover that there are connections to the other tribes of Amazons that we have established. Yara, one of these new characters that is going to come out of Future State is called Yara Flor, the brand new Wonder Woman. And it says Yara does have some connection to the Amazons, and part of what we'll discover in her origin is what activates her position, what makes her Wonder Woman at the time. She's from Brazil, but she was an immigrant to America. There's always that element of her story. Even though we'll see her currently active as Wonder Woman, eventually we'll learn what her origin is. Partially her figuring out what that means, where she's from, why this is her, how she relates to Diana, and how she relates to other Amazons. So, cool. I'm looking forward to the cosplay. I mean, I'm actually looking forward to checking this out, but also the cosplay. Next.
Okay, next up. I didn't skip one. Okay. Nicholas Scott returns to Nightwing for Future State. Nicholas Scott's Nightwing is the poster boy for the Resistance in Future State. Okay. Several new visions of DC's future will be presented in early 2021 with Future State. And among those is that of Nightwing, with longtime Dick Grayson fan Nicholas Scott drawing his story. In Future State, Nightwing is the poster boy of the Resistance, as I said, according to Batman Group editor Ben Abernathy, and will be bringing sexy back. Oh, bringing sexy back, to borrow a popular phrase that was like popular several years back.
Right.
Batman is gone. Now Nightwing has taken on the mission of keeping the citizens of Gotham City safe from the Magistrate. Okay. So that's where he's part of the Resistance.
That whole the straps on the logo, the straps on the wing thing is kind of, I don't understand that, but yeah. Anyway, oh yeah, it says something like, keep in mind that Nicholas Scott drew that meme-inducing Robin Nightwing variant back in 2021, talking about the one that's the image that is in this article, which apparently can't get to. Next up, though. DC Future State reintroduces Jack Kirby's forgotten Mr. Miracle. Though DC Future State is looking at the future of his hero, it will bring back a character from the Fourth World. Superman Group editor Janie S. Rich revealed that Shiloh Norman, the second man to take up the mantle of Mr. Miracle, will feature heavily in the Superman and Justice League books in Future State's lineup. We are sort of looking at them as a core to our cosmic titles, Rich told IGN. Everyone loves to play with the new gods. Shiloh Norman has actually been off stage for a little while now. I just loved Mr. Miracle in general. Okay, next.
Okay. Key DC Future State titles will borrow from a format that's been successful overseas for decades. For the first 2 months of 2021, the core DC titles will be 8 oversized anthologies containing all new stories, unlike the mostly reprint format of the similarly sized DC Giants. Okay.
Right, and I think they're basically saying it sounds like they're might be taking a page from like manga, the way manga does things. Because I know there's been some discussion about this online with this various comic book folks, but yeah, it is what it is on that. Hal Jordan gets a surprising new magical partner, and also starts a fight with the same person in the same issue, apparently, because this was broken up into 2 articles for some reason. And this is a spoiler for the story, The Shadow over Coast City, from the DC The Doomed and the Damned #1, which is already out. So Hal Jordan's gonna team up with Etrigan, the demon, in whatever is going on here. End the story. Next.
Okay. What are we on? The spoiler?
The Flash.
Spoiler, the Flash Ring's secret origin is absolutely heartbreaking. Okay, writer Joshua Williamson just wrapped up a lengthy run on the Flash, but that doesn't mean Barry Allen is standing still. For years, the Scarlet Speedster's ring merely seemed like a helpful gadget or a fashion accessory, but the Flash number 763 gives it an origin story that's equally heartbreaking and wonderful. Early in the issue, it's clear the ring is important to Barry. When he loses it, he immediately vows to get it back because he can't replace it. Telling a concerned Iris West the ring is forged from a special alloy he made, he eventually reveals just how priceless this metal is. Okay. Now you're going to make me go to the article to find out what's what. Yeah, it's stolen by the trickster. Barry describes how when he made the ring, he wanted it to remind him why he chose to be a superhero. And Barry constructed the ring from his parents' wedding bands. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, every time Barry dons his costume, he connects it with his parents. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But now the trickster has it, so oh well. DC ends, or at least had it. I don't know. I haven't been reading that book, but I know that cover was basically suggesting that was the case. Anyway, DC ends relationship with distributor UCS. DC and UCS distributors are ending their direct market partnership as of January 1st, 2021, as announced in letters to comic book retailers from DC and UCS respectively. Quote unquote, in April, UCS Comics Distributors and Lunar Distribution partnered with DC to transition to a multi-distributor model for the direct market. At a time when the market comic book distribution was on pause and the supply chain disrupted as a result of safer at home orders that were put in place, reads DC's letter to retailers. We are now in our next phase where, as of January 1st, 2021, DC publications will continue to be distributed by direct market by Lunar Distribution, Diamond UK, and Penguin Random House for graphic novels and collected editions only for the Penguin Random House stuff. UCS comic distributors will no longer distribute DC publications, but retailers can continue to order from UCS through the end of November. UCS was created in spring as an outgrowth of Midtown Comics, who already had a robust mail-order retail comic book industry. And I know there's been some flap about this from folks online. So, oh well. Next up.
I was about to say, what are you going to do? As I mentioned in our back channel discussions, I heard some tough things about UCS as it's run by, as an offshoot, or it's run by Midtown Comics.
Right.
And they weren't exactly doing a great job with distributing DC stuff right now. So, I'm presuming that's where all that stems from. So DC is going to have its own distributor for its stuff. And, for all you folks that, that get DC stuff, hopefully you're still able to get it going forward.
I'm sure you will. But next up.
Spider-Woman #5 explains why Jessica Drew is keeping her new costume.
Which we kind of already, we didn't say why, but we definitely did talk about it. But if you want to stay spoiler free, we'll leave it at that. It's really not much to it.
Right, it's pretty simple.
Ten of Swords sends an X-Men leader into unarmed combat. So this, I guess, forthcoming spoilers? I don't know. Ten of Swords will pit Krakoa's sword bearers against the sword bearers of Morocco in a fight to the death. We already know this. Basically, Magic and her famous soul sword fighting the crocodile-like creature, and I hate this name, Pog, because it reminds me of some Twitch stuff. The text Marvel released with the image reads, Magic versus Pog. Two warriors face off in unarmed combat in X-Force number 14, chapter 17 of Ten of Swords, X-Force number 14. So, okay, there you go, and you see the image right there. Next.
Alrighty, next up, Captain Britain. Well, this is spoilers for Excalibur number 13, but we discussed it already.
Kinda.
Captain Britain turned down the Sword of Might in Excalibur number 13, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Well, she did definitely, but yeah, there was a whole thing that happened after that, but so we don't necessarily need to go into that again. But yeah, there was a change of hands and some things happened, and she still got it, so it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Marvel is about to make an Omega level mutant even stronger. In this, well, this is from Marauders number 13, which came out like last week. So basically, as we found out then, Storm ended up getting Stormbreaker from Wakanda, and this article goes on to postulate that the sword, which was forged at the beginning of Wakanda from the original source of vibranium, may give Storm a power boost should she decide to, take use of it while in Ten of Swords, which she probably will. Who knows? And this goes on. The article goes on to, to give some use cases of it. Next up.
All right. Magnificent Miss Marvel has been canceled as of January, but Kamala actually, likely in Marvel's 2021 plans. Marvel Comics' Magnificent Miss Marvel ongoing series will come to an end in January, concluding with Magnificent Miss Marvel number 18, which also marks man, I hate the fact that I have to keep thinking about how to pronounce it, Kamala Khan's 75th solo comic book. Saladin Ahmed launched Magnificent Miss Marvel in 2019 alongside artist Minkyu Jung, who served as the core series artist for the volume's whole run. The finale, issue number 18/number 75, will be oversized and once again teams Kamala with the new hero Amulet to take on Storm Ranger, the sentient Kree battlesuit Kamala wore while on an adventure in space. Cool.
I really hate the starting and restarting of things. We've already talked about this, so we don't necessarily have to go back through it, but that still bugs the shit out of me.
It sucks that It sucks that it's issue number that they're purposefully ending it on issue number 75 so that they can make it oversized.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you said, it sucks that they're gonna restart again with a number one again, probably sometime in 2021.
Right. Like there's no justification for it. No real justification of it outside of number one sell and whatever other stupid reason they gin up. Anyway, meet Marvel's new Valkyrie ahead of her 2021 debut. Spoilers first, this kind of looks like a MCU thing going on here. A new Valkyrie will debut at Marvel Comics this January. In the upcoming one-shot, guess what? King in Black! Return of the Valkyries. A new, as yet unnamed Valkyrie will debut as a part of a team-up of Marvel Comics Valkyries, Jane Foster, Danny Moonstar, and Hildegard. Emerging just as Null's takeover begins, this new Valkyrie's past holds dark secrets that will change everything you thought you knew about this group of Asgardians and reveal what their future in the Marvel Universe holds. The new Valkyrie character was designed by Mattea de Lucis. My apologies for screwing up your name. And you can see some character designs right here in the article. Which again, I feel like shades of some MCU going on here. But hey, it is what it is. Next up.
All right, next up, there's a new book out called The Wakanda Files from Epic Inc. It's described as a technological exploration of the Avengers and beyond. The 160-page tome, now on sale, helps flesh out the MCU with insights from Shuri of Wakanda on human enhancement, transportation, weapons, artificial intelligence, and mind control. It covers everything from the birth of Captain America to the time-traveling possibilities of the quantum realm. There's even an explanation for what happened to that bottle of soda containing a droplet of Bruce Banner's gamma-irradiated blood. Plus, make sure to scour each page for hidden messages with a Komoyo bead-shaped UV light. Okay.
Wait, I feel like we know what happened to that bottle of soda because that kind of...
Of course we know what happened to it.
Yeah, but I know that's them saying that, yeah, it's all... They're pretty much laying that all back out, but I'm like, okay, sure. But regardless, and the article goes on to kind of give some tidbits on some of the stuff which we won't go into, but I might end up actually checking that book out. See if I can get my hands on a copy anyway. Darth Vader officially introduces a key Skywalker saga character. So this is spoilers for last week's Darth Vader number 6. And apparently, we kind of sort of mentioned this, but what I did not realize at the time of who this character was that shows up at the end. So apparently, there's an assassin that shows up at the end of the book whose name is Ochi of Bestoon. And it's seemingly, spoiler alerts, folks, this could very well be the person, or this seems like the person that killed Rey's parents. I don't know, and assume, and somewhere in Rise of Skywalker, the movie, this was some of this was mentioned, and I totally don't remember, but I think it was on that planet that they went to, and they ran across Lando, but or at least I think this article also mentions that. But this is one of those cases I was gonna actually go back and watch it and see, but I didn't. Anyway, next up.
All right, Lucasfilm has unveiled 4 new Jedi Padawans that are featured in Star Wars: The High Republic. StarWars.com officially pulled back the curtain on these 4 new characters by providing first-look images and fresh details about the wide range of Padawan learners in the High Republic era. The creators behind Lucasfilm's multi-pronged publishing initiative have also shared some additional insights into the next class of Jedi, which features Buryaga, Reeth Silas, Lula Talasola, and Bel Zedifar. Okay.
Yes, and people have taken to that last character because apparently he has a pet houndour or some sort of hellhound at his side, and people have kind of taken to that. Not the
Hey,
character, but the
I
dog.
was about to say Buryaga is a Wookiee Padawan.
Well, yeah, we
Wookiee
talked. Yeah, like folks have talked about that one already. But people have kind of gone on with this this one Padawan with the dog more.
Oh
recently.
yeah, I see that. Yeah, because people love dogs.
Yeah, yeah, but still, yeah, some of these characters look good. Now, even Charles Soules has kind of been, has been one of the ones that's been, sharing tidbits on these folk, because obviously he's, a part of some of this. So cool. Now we get to a story that we alluded to earlier, in that Marvel Unlimited will stream comic books, that's a weird way to say it, but sure, we'll stream new comic books 3 months earlier. So instead of the 4 to 6 months that we've been getting, Marvel Unlimited will debut new books in 3 months past the initial print, or the initial new release, rather, I should say. So any books that come out this week will be there in 3 months.
Just still a long time to wait if you want to try to keep up with things, but hey,
but not as long as what it was, though.
What's that?
I said, but not as long as what it was, because like I said, it used to be 4 to 6. Like they had pretty much chopped it down to 4 in recent year or so, seemingly, because as I've noticed. But yeah, 3, like that's still not as bad.
No, not as bad.
So, I mean, hell, people used to wait, like when people were trading, people were waiting longer than that. So
sometimes,
yeah. So cool, that's the thing. Meanwhile, I know people have said something about, compared to what DC is doing, DC and their aversion to digital in general. But it's apples and oranges, folks.
Wait.
Next up. So what?
I said definitely apples and oranges in this case.
Yeah. But next up.
All right. Spider-Man Miles Morales features the younger, hipper wall crawler striking out on his own under the mentorship of Peter Parker. But he's not quite alone. This is video game stuff. Apparently, he has the help of a frankly adorable kitty cat who can even help him in battle. Watch out, here comes a spider cat. Okay.
And I will not restate my Twitter pun about this, but I will say shout out to Big Pun.
Okay.
Also, I will remind folks that there is an article in this clickbait section again that is a guide to every Spider-Man suit that is going to be in Miles Morales' new game, including the aforementioned Spider-Cat suit. So, and it also gives the comic origins of all of the suits. They did something similar to this in with the Spider-Man PS4. Which, speaking of, Spider-Man Remastered new suits also confirmed for Spider-Man PS4, 5. And also, actually, no, don't even worry about that, because that's a whole nother separate thing that's going to be in there. But regardless, new suits are coming to Spider-Man Remastered on the PS5, and it will also reappear in the original version also. So the PS4 version of Spider-Man already had a bunch of suits, so it sounds like the remastered version is going to get those suits plus a few more that are going to come back into the original version. So along with giving Peter Parker a new face, bumping up the game's overall visual quality, and offering a selection of modes for performance and visual quality, Insomniac Games have confirmed that Spider-Man Remastered will include 3 new suits for our webhead pal, one of which will be a replica of the suit Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker wore in the Amazing Spider-Man films, and the other 2 are a secret for now. And Insomniac's community director pretty much confirmed this on Twitter, that these new suits will make their way back to the original version of Spider-Man PS4. So cool. Next up.
All right. In some news from last week's Hasbro's Fan Friday, it revealed that there's more Transformers the movie figures coming out alongside the Transformers Studio Series 69 Devastator Combiner set, and the My Little Pony crossover collection, My Little Prime figure. Pre-orders for the entire wave can be found online. The figures included a deluxe Autobot Blur, Leader Grimlock and Autobot Wheelie, Autobot Jazz, a deluxe cup, Voyager Scourge, Voyager Autobot Hot Rod, Revenge of the Fallen Devastator Constructicon Combiner set, and My Little Pony Times Transformer crossover collection, My Little Prime figure. Okay.
Yep. And if you're watching the video, you just saw flashes of all of the images in that article from that. And my wallet will not thank these people for this because, well, I'm not going to get all these, but there's a couple of them I kind of want. Regardless, original Rankin Bass Rudolph Santa figures are going up for auction. So Santa and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer puppets from 1964's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer are up for auction in November, likely selling for $250,000. I'm surprised those things are still around, to be honest. The auction is November 13th of this year, and it says that, auction house profiles in history, which specialize in Hollywood artifacts, estimated the pair of puppets sell between $150,000 to $250,000. The set will come on a display, a base strewn with Christmas gifts, snowy mountains, and decorated Christmas trees. And you can see the pictures of the figures right there, specifically the Santa and the reindeers. So, cool. Next up.
Artists, Writers, and Artisans, AWA, is launching 2 comic series for younger readers in December, with graphic novel collections to follow. Bite-sized, suitable for middle-grade readers and older, is written by Cullen Bunn, with art by Nelson Blake and colors by Snakebite Cortez. The launch of the first issue is timed for Christmas, as it takes place on Christmas Eve. It's all about robots that are created in a military lab that escape from the lab and crash land in the stockings in a suburban home on Christmas Eve. AWA Chief Creative Officer Axel Alonso says. Okay.
And what funny Christmas Eve Santa. Anyway, okay. Next up. A new Green Ranger emerges in Mighty Morphin #1 First Look. So this is a preview for the new Mighty Morphin book that is coming up. Boom has released an unlettered preview of Mighty Morphin #1, which will be released alongside the new series Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin is written by Ryan Parrott, illustrated by Marco Renner, colored by Walter Biamonte, with assistance by Katia Rinaldi. Lettered by Ed Dukeshire. And you can see the pictures in the article below or in the video if you're watching it at this moment. Next up.
Alrighty. In our penultimate story, there is no substitute for Animorphs, really. The beloved sci-fi kids book series from K.A. Applegate. And now Animorphs fans should be excited to learn that the series is getting its own graphic novel adaptation coming next month from Scholastic. Okay.
Yeah, Animorphs. Yeah, so this is kind of old news, but the reason why I put it in here is because there's an article in the clickbait section from the writer, who basically said that it's going to be a little basically faithful, because they're sometimes reboots can kind of go away. I was never a big Animorphs fan, or at least I think it was a lot after my time. I don't know if you were into it, because I know a lot of people out there were. Probably like Tim's age and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Last but not least, Reebok's new Ghostbusters sneakers look like they've already been through a few ghost battles. So proving you don't need a notable anniversary of the original film to release new Ghostbusters merchandise, Reebok's new Ghost Smasher sneakers look like something straight out of Egon's lab, with what appears to be a proton pack hardware strapped to the back, and a pre-worn finish, because ghost busting isn't pretty, but it does make you feel good. Officially available starting at midnight on October 31st. Naturally, the $150 kicks are based on the Reebok Alien Stompers mid-top silhouette, and use a pair of Velcro straps in lieu of laces to secure them to your feet. Blah blah blah. Yakety smackety. Here are the shoes. Wait. Oh, those are the original shoes, the Alien Stompers, and here are the ones in question. I don't know. Would you buy these? Agents of
Let me take a look at them. I doubt it.
They really look like Back to the Future shoes too, but that's that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. That's a bit much.
Yeah, like I can't even imagine sneakerheads kind of getting into this, and I feel like we know a couple, but yeah.
I mean, the other ones, the kind of brown ones.
Yeah, I think those are the original Alien Stompers. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, those look fine. You know, you could get away with those.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know,
but
not so much the one with the ectoplasm in the back and.
Yeah, I don't know, and I guess those are pumps. I don't know. I know one of these are pumps or according to this thing, but regardless. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Those are not the Alien Smash Stompers. Those are $100 Ghostbusters classic leather shoes. Those the brown ones.
Okay.
And they're also going to go on sale at Halloween at midnight. But yeah, I guess somebody would probably be more apt to get those than the ones at the top if you're watching the video.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is it for the news, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get another ad read to take us out?
Our last ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight, your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
And this time I promised to make the transition back like I should have done last weekend, but that's a whole other thing. And so we come to the end of another Comic Book Chronicles. Again, not sorry for all the news, but whatever. You love us. I have been Roddykat, your host. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at Instagram on CBCaps. Agent_70, your other host. You can find him at Twitter and Instagram at Agent_70. PC_Dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and there's all his umbrella sites therein. And he's probably still doing Byte, which is, he goes under the comic reviews, no vowels. The Osiris of this ish, Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter. The Click Nation on Twitter, CB Cron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, and of course he's over at Comic Book Resources writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Ghost Lizard Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find it at your podcast rental place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Coast Lizard Podcast Network. Sometime probably Saturday or Sunday, whenever the audio goes out. You can also find us, recording this live on Thursday nights on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/theclicknation. That's the KLIQNATION. I will be fine. It is just late. Or you can check us out on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one word, where we're also streaming at the same time. And hopefully we will get to streaming some video games over there, quite possibly of the variety you would expect from us.
There you go.
Or maybe some other stuff. Who knows? Maybe some other stuff going on. Maybe some addendums to the show or something along. We don't know. We're still working out the kinks on that one. But with that, folks, join us again next week for another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I will say right before we leave, very quick show and tell. Very quick. I got my, I don't know if you can see this, but yeah. Nice. I got my Marvel Legends. This is Iron Man figure, as you can see here.
The Silver Centurion.
The Silver Centurion. The classic, or the other classic. Because we know the Mark II is the classic. But there you go. I finally found it at a Walgreens, as I told Agent 70 out and about in the last couple of days. And it was the very last one they had. Like the across the town, mind you. It wasn't like, there's like 3 or 4 near me. None of them have it. But I had to go way across town into, I don't want to say it's the white section of town, but it kind of a bunch of white folks.
Other section of town.
The other, it was basically the other side of town. It's not necessarily the white section, because there's a bunch of black people there, and other people there also. But that's just yeah. Regardless, you would have to know Columbia to know what I'm talking about. But I finally found it.
I did not find my Silver Centurion in any Walgreens close to me in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, not that I was looking all over Brooklyn. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's not like I'm trolling all the Walgreens to look for it. I'm going to look only in the ones that are relatively accessible to me.
Same.
I happened to be upstate visiting family, and lo and behold, I ran into my Silver Centurion, as I mentioned on last week's show.
Right, right, and I just so happened to be way across town because I was doing dropping off some voter registrations or my mom's vote at the voter registration place, and I just so happened to go a little further because I was for another whole reason, and just so happened to be a Walgreens in front of the place where I went, and I was like, you know what, let me check this out, and
you pull into the parking lot, and the next thing you know.
Oh, well, no, I was like, because when I went to the place, because basically I went to go get some food while I was out that way, and I was like, because I had never tried this place, because I had heard something, and I saw the Walgreens across the way, so I was like, sure, why not, before I head back home, and just on a whim went in there to the Walgreens, and, boom, there it was on the shelf, last one. And shout out to the young lady who rung me up, who was having a particularly bad morning, thanks to a very ornery customer. I hope that person's day got better.
That's too bad. I was about to say, unfortunately, this is our reality where we have to go to Walgreens of all places to find toys.
Yeah. And sadly, as we have talked off channel, that sometimes the stock that they have is widely varied because of the way they stock things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, as I think I might have mentioned, some places get stuff that other places did not get. Because I'm almost fairly certain that none of the Walgreens here got any of those Silver Centurions. Whereas this one place across town, or probably the ones across town probably did for whatever odd reason.
Did you ever see a Moon Knight?
Oh, yeah. I told you, I've run across those. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So you ran across Moon Knight and you've run across very old Medusas, but you never saw a Silver Centurion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, and there's still a bunch of Arnold Starks, Arnold Iron Man 2020s that are floating about. I haven't been, like I said, that was the only Walgreens I had gone to recently, but I know as of the last time we talked about it, but prior to this.
Right. But you know what's funny is that you didn't have any problems, not that you were getting them, but you didn't have any problems seeing the FF, right?
That is correct, yeah, because the matter of fact, I think I still ran across a Sue Storm at one point, like sometime last year.
Yeah, that's wild, man. It was a battle for me to find a Ben Grimm. I didn't get that until PCN_Dirt found one for me and sent it to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were relatively easy to find. I think the Sue one was probably, I think I might have had to go to another. I just so happened to be at one that I found it at, but that one's still not that far away, so it's still relatively close. Yeah, but all of them.
Found the Torch and you found the Thing and you found Reed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wild. I did not have much luck finding those. I found a Reed on a whim, and I think the Torch was, a hunt also, and so was Sue, but Ben Grimm was not accessible at all to me. I checked I checked Walgreens in Manhattan. I checked them in Brooklyn. Just no luck.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, trials and tribulations as toy collectors, folks. You gotta love it.
Sucks.
Kind of does, and especially as we have lamented before with stuff like Target exclusives. Exclusives in general are a pain.
Yes.
But for some of us, Target ones are more of a pain than others of us.
Definitely. Although Walgreens is not that far behind. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, yeah, because I know Walgreens are not as prevalent to you as they are here. But you say you had Dwayne Reed's, right? Which are pretty much Walgreens.
You can find them in Dwayne Reed's and you can find them in Walgreens. So it's not that bad. It's just a matter of the way they stock, as you mentioned earlier, the way they stock their shelves. They're broken up. They don't send cases of these figures to the stores. What they do is that they break up the cases at their like central distribution warehouse, and they drop a few figures into each branch's box, basically each branch's shipment, and then you might be only getting like 2 or 3 or 4 out of a case of 12. For that's shipped to like like one regional distribution thing. So
right, or in the case of what you mentioned after the show last week, there might be a hidden place under some store
yeah, that's
shelves.
in Target. Listen,
yeah.
I know better now, man. I know better now. There are employees and or customers who are hiding figures for purchase at a later date, and it would behoove anyone who's listening to this, anyone who's watching this, to check underneath the bottom metal shelf in the aisle that you're in, or even in the aisles around you, at Target especially.
Yeah.
Lift the shelf, believe it or not. It's
Which
hysterical. When I saw it, and I saw that there were a bunch of Star Wars figures under that someone stuffed in there, I started laughing. And someone else walked by, and they were like, "Oh, you watch these YouTube videos, man?" I'm like, I was today years old when I learned about this.
Right.
Crazy.
But
All
yeah,
right, let's
little
wrap
pro
it
tip
up.
for those looking for it. But yeah, so that's the show, folks. We'll be back next week, 9:30ish p.m. Thursday nights at the places mentioned previously. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!